Greetings and welcome to Executive Competencies. I'm Paige Stover, here today with Dr. Karen Walsh from the Thunderbird School of Global Management. Dr. Walsh is launching her brand new book, Power of Understanding, Achieving Buoyancy for Negotiation Impact. Karen, at the very beginning of your book, Dr. Michael Wheeler from the Harvard Business School has written a very intriguing foreword. I'm going to quote briefly from it. He suggests that you are encouraging negotiators to turn their attention inward, first to their own sense of self, and then to themselves in relationships to others. I'm interpreting this to mean that most negotiation books are written from the outward focus, looking at things like BATNA, at financial terms, at techniques and closing strategies, things like that. How did you come upon this very different way of looking at negotiation success?
Well, I started the study in this field in the 80s. And what I was interested there was looking at how do individuals or organizations or nation states develop power. And in that study, I learned a lot about the need to have structural authority or structural power. So we would want to be in a position of authority politically, organizationally, or maybe if we don't have that organizational power, we might use manipulation or psychological warfare in order to gain leverage over another. And what I learned from that experience was that there was a lot of lost opportunities, lost relationships, lost created value by not spending time looking at where are there ways that we can understand intangible goals, such as the nature of the relationship or potential of long-term opportunities that we could create. So I moved from thinking about power in terms of having structural authority, but looking at how do we increase our leverage by better understanding myself and others so we can be more innovative and creative.
Well, your background is in fact in political economy, in addition to your focus on negotiation and cross-cultural communication. You talk a tremendous amount about power in the book. There's a whole chapter on power, but your position seems to be that power is a very good thing.
Yes, and use it wisely. I absolutely agree that power is something that we need to spend more attention to, not only in terms of how we interact in our social life, but also in our careers. And we leave too much power and too many opportunities on the table by not looking at how can I explore my leverage and understanding with more clarity about what I want and more clarity also about what you would want in a negotiation.
So the underlying theory throughout your whole book contrasts the power of understanding versus the power of coercion. Help me understand the difference between the two.
Well, generally I think of power of coercion as power over. How can I have the structural political power, resources that I can reward and punish you so I can control you and the negotiation. Power with is how can I understand your interests, my interests, two heads are better than one, to come up with creating some new ways to share a limited resource or create something new or to solve a problem in a more creative, innovative way.
You talk a great deal about the role of the self-actualized advocate and the importance of this role if I am choosing to negotiate from the power of understanding. How does this role work, and what do I need to do to get my head into it?
That's very interesting for me in terms of the research that I've done, that I work a lot with individuals who are on a personal development or on a self-actualized growth plan for themselves. And personally, they may be doing a lot of work in getting to know who they are and wanting to behave in a particular way in the world. And then when it comes to actual negotiation, they lose their intention or they lose their focus. So what we're looking at here is what kind of skills, what kind of awareness, and what kind of knowledge is important so I can understand myself better, so I can stay on intention of being self-actualized, creating value for myself and be of service to others, and to be able to apply that in negotiation situations where there are limited resources and a lot of limited time.
You talk in the book extensively about the idea that negotiation is in fact a leadership competency. Help me understand how I, as the CEO of an organization, need to use your word, master the idea of conducting myself using the power of understanding.
Well, this is true in a lot of learning and development, is that we have these different levels in the pipeline. Some of us are individual contributors, some of us are leader of others, and some of us are leaders of leaders, and some of us are the leaders of the enterprise. I believe at all levels of the organization, in any government or private sector organization, we need to know how to influence, we need to know how to problem solve with others, and in general, we need to get things done. So what's important here as a leadership competency, I find that it's not very useful, not very satisfying to just learn a toolbox kit. Give me a set of tactics and strategies. Give me a set of dirty tricks that I could use to entrap others into following my policy or getting the work done on this team. I find that no matter where you are in levels of responsibility, that to understand how do I get what I want by working through others is a competency we need at all levels.
Anybody in a leadership position, Karen, is going to be subject to competing demands, allocating resources in a somewhat hostile environment, and to use your language, we're all going to find ourselves in times of turbulence. You have created the very intriguing term of clairvoyance. How do I use clairvoyance to get myself through this turbulence?
I see this as a state of being in order to negotiate either in the social field or also in our career path. Is that increasingly what we have found in the research in general is amazingly amount of turbulence. A lot of restructuring, a lot of crises, a lot of shocks to the system. And we're finding that there's a lot of stress and anxiety internal and also external. And without this kind of clarity or that anchor down to what my integrity is, what my spiritual values are, what my personal values are, how I want to behave and serve others is an important component of buoyancy. As you think of a buoy, that buoy needs to be anchored, and then it can take the shocks. It can take the permanent white water that many of us find ourselves in. And clarity is the key to buoyancy. How clear am I in understanding who I am and who you are, what you want, why you want it, and what do I want and why do I want it? And how do I want to behave with you in this negotiation? Just that clarity increases the performance and the satisfaction of the outcomes and what I call productive power in a negotiation.
You suggest that I will achieve the condition of clairvoyance by finding an equilibrium among the 5 dimensions.
Yes, and that's why we use the compass in the book, to think about a compass of who I am. How do I think? How do I behave? How do I feel? And what do I believe in? And how do I manage my physical performance? Because many of us, when we are under stress, our brains cannot calculate fast enough. We need to think about our behavior in terms of exercise, oxygen, sleep, and to think about our physical performance, how that can impact our willingness and capability to be able to step to the other party's side and to be able to problem solve effectively. All these pieces are related, and when you have equilibrium on all those dimensions, we can have clairvoyancy.
Well, you suggest throughout the book, Karen, that if I can master the power of understanding approach, I will get a whole lot more of what I want. I don't think anybody's going to argue with you there. Thanks so much for joining us today. To get a copy of Karen's new book, please visit www.powerofunderstanding.net. I'm Paige Stover. It's been such a pleasure to have you with us today on Executive Competencies. I hope to see you again very soon.